When you go to church, it's not about Christian government and this is how the government is to function. Look at page 14 of the New Testament or whatever. It doesn't work that way. That doesn't mean you as a voter or an activist or a citizen, or you as a senator or congressman or a state rep or president, that doesn't mean the values you have from your faith aren't relevant. Of course they're relevant. But what it means is you have a country like the United States of America, not separation of church and state, but a separation of organized church, organized temple, organized mosque, devouring the government and using the government to impose its will. Now, some of you have seen this, undoubtedly some of you have not. This has really made the rounds over the last few days. You know, doctors and nurses are supposed to give care, life-saving care, life-improving care, what have you, regardless of the patient. Do you know in the state of Israel, they have major, sophisticated, technologically advanced hospitals, some of which are built near one border or another. They take in Palestinians. They take in Syrians. They take in Lebanese. They take in whomever it is. No questions asked. Now, you may not agree with that. I don't necessarily agree with it, but they take them in. They've been known to literally take in, over the past decades, soldiers who have fought for the other side, which I think is a little much, to be perfectly honest with you, but that's what they do. And they get no credit for it whatsoever, certainly not in the international press, certainly not in the American press. But that's their attitude. That's the way they think. A life is a life. This anti-Semitism that has spread in our country is spreading throughout Europe and has been virulent in places like Canada, Australia, and so forth. Australia has really gone off the deep end when it comes to the Jew hatred, and they don't have an insignificant Jewish population. It's not the biggest country on the face of the earth, that's for sure, in terms of population. But 115,000 people in Australia are Jewish heritage. And so it is not insignificant as those things go. But I want you to watch this because you have two nurses, one male, one female, both of whom are obviously Arab, probably Palestinian. This is 7 News Australia. Let's take a look. Go.
A cowardly attempt to cover a face which has now been seen worldwide. Can I just ask you about your comments?
No comments, please.
Are you anti-Semitic? Did you kill patients at Bankstown? Why did you make those threats? Ahmad Nadir wasn't so camera shy last night during this random online interaction with an Israeli influencer.
How are you, man?
Good, how are you, my man?
Pretty good. Are you a nurse, a doctor?
I'm a doctor, my man.
He isn't. He's a nurse at Bankstown Hospital and full of hate.
But I'm so upset that you're Israeli. Like, eventually you're gonna get killed and you're gonna go to Jahannam, inshallah.
Jahannam, Arabic for hell.
Why do you think? Why do you think I'm gonna get killed?
It's Palestine's country, not your country, you piece of
That woman, Ahmad's nursing colleague, Sarah Abu Lebda.
How are you doctors? Wait.
I want you to remember my face.
Okay,
so
okay.
You can understand
Gotcha.
that you will
I have
die
a question
the most disgusting death.
All right.
The vile video filmed while the nurses were working. They should have been caring for patients. Instead, they were threatening them.
Let's say an Israeli. God forbid.
I won't treat them. I'll kill them.
You'll kill them? So if an Israeli is in Australia and God forbid something happened to him and he comes to your hospital, would you kill him?
You have no idea how many Israeli Khara dog came to this hospital and I sent him to Jahannam. I literally sent him to Jahannam.
Within hours, their vitriol went viral. Their bosses sickened.
They are vile, disgusting and deranged individuals.
And clearly shocked.
Never in my wildest dreams did I think that I would be standing here with 2 staff of the New South Wales health system having said such horrendous things.
The pair swiftly sacked.
These people will never work in New South Wales hospitals again.
The nurses now claim it was just a miscommunication, a joke, one no one found funny.
It's an ideology. It is a sick, ill ideology. This is why when people say, we just need a Palestinian state or another state, or, you know, if the war with Hamas would just be over, and on and on and on. Ladies and gentlemen, this is an ideology, a religious ideology. Our friend Zuhdi Jasser, wonderful American patriot, served in the Navy. I believe he's still in the reserves, was a commander. His family escaped Syria. He's Muslim, obviously. He's formed and founded his own Muslim reform organization. He's made the point on Fox, here, on radio over the years, that while there are many, many good Muslim people, including him and his family and so forth and so on, the reason there are so many people like this is because as a faith, Islam has not gone through what we call reformation. That doesn't mean you surrender your religious principles. It means these are religious principles that have to sort of fuse with notions of the Enlightenment. I mean, just to get a little bit into the weeds, if you look at ancient history, and I don't mean 300 years ago, ancient history, I don't even mean 1,000 years ago. If you look at the Torah, or what some people call the Old Testament, there's nothing in there about individualism. Did you know that, Mr. Producer? The focus and the strength is not on the individual rights, unalienable individual rights, or anything of the sort. It's about macro, big concepts, big ideas, big beliefs, big values. As you, as a part of a whole, part of a congregation, part of a community, could be part of a nation, how you're supposed to conduct yourself, the things you're supposed to believe in, how others are supposed to conduct themselves, basics, you know, the 10 Commandments, other things. This whole idea of individual liberty, if you really want to know the truth, really didn't come to be in any significant way. And you know, it's very significant in the West, certainly our country, until about the late 1400s or 1500s. Well, Judaism is much older than that. Christianity is much older than that. Even Islam's much older than that. And so when I tell people this, they tend to be shocked, but it's the truth. That's why when people come to this country from all walks of life, at least prior to the last 25 years or so, they assimilated into our culture. And what is our culture? Our culture is based on the Judeo-Christian value and belief system. Without Judaism, there'd be no Christianity. Without Christianity, there'd be no United States of America. That said, why is that so important? Because both faiths went through this sort of reformation. Again, you don't surrender your core beliefs, but in terms of this individualism and unalienable rights and so forth and so on, it's very important. Look at your Declaration of Independence, where we talk about natural rights, natural law, the Creator. What does that mean? Natural rights, natural law, they are eternal truths. Eternal truths which you uncover through what's called right reason, the ability to reason correctly and morally. So the golden rule applies whether it's in some far-off corner of the earth or in Manhattan. Doesn't mean people will, live up to the golden rule. Doesn't even mean they'll practice it. But what's right is right. What's good is good. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Or the 10 Commandments. It doesn't matter, really, who you are or where you were born or where you live. The 10 Commandments, thou shalt not kill, covet your neighbor's property, all these things are understood by human beings. Again, it doesn't mean human beings actually embrace it and follow it. People are imperfect, and faith addresses that too. But when it comes to what you see taking place with the Palestinians, taking place with the Muslim Brotherhood, the mothership of all the terrorist organizations, they don't accept this. So they're throwbacks to the 9th century, some say, I would argue the 7th century, these ideologies, these terrorist ideology, these jihadist, Islamist ideologies. They kill each other if they don't comport with certain aspects of it. One other piece of this, I wasn't meaning to get into this, but that's the nature of what I do. Now, I wrote about this at some length, but I want to just touch on it again. Judaism and Christianity, the two most ancient faiths of the main religions. Judaism predates Christianity, obviously. Christianity and Judaism predate Islam. Neither Judaism nor Christianity preach what? Organizational, governmental control of the society. When you look in the Quran, and one of the people that first point this out in a way that I started to look into this was Alexis de Tocqueville, the great Alexis de Tocqueville. He said, as an example, a difference between Christianity and Islam. You will not find in Christianity criminal and civil laws that are laid out, or specific laws that are laid out that you must comply with as a governing politic. In the Quran, it's laid out in great detail. So this is what our friend Zuhdi Jasser calls political Islam. He says political Islam is the problem, rather than the faith itself, having not gone through this Reformation process. So in other words, when you go to temple, when you go to synagogue, you don't want to hear about what Judaism is to do with government and how government is to operate to fulfill Jewish beliefs. Or when you go to church, it's not about Christian government and this is how the government is to function. Look at page 14 of the New Testament or whatever. It doesn't work that way. That doesn't mean you as a voter or an activist or a citizen, or you as a senator or congressman or a state rep or president, that doesn't mean the values you have from your faith aren't relevant. Of course they're relevant. But what it means is you have a country like the United States of America, not separation of church and state, but a separation of organized church, organized temple, organized mosque, devouring the government and using the government to impose its will. You look at the First Amendment, the free exercise of religion. That's intended to protect all faiths, including Judaism and Christianity. It doesn't mean faith is to be ignored, that faith is to be rejected, but it's faith without sort of an iron fist imposing its will on everybody and anybody. I mean, even if I were to say, as an example, Judaism should rule. Well, which Judaism should rule? Orthodox Judaism? Conservative Judaism? Reform Judaism? Which? And then there are divisions within Orthodox Judaism and conservative or Christianity. Well, which part of Christianity should rule? The Catholics, the Protestants, which Protestants? See, Christianity doesn't do that. Judaism doesn't do that. But in Islam, that in parts of the world where it hasn't gone through this Reformation, they do that, which is why they slaughter each other in the Middle East and elsewhere. You comply with not just my faith, the sect within the faith. Or, all right, little diversion, but I think it's an important diversion. Which brings us back to these two nurses. Which brings us back to Hamas. Do you think for 2 seconds that if we created a new country out of whole cloth, for the vast majority of the Palestinians who voted for Hamas, who voted for Fatah, who would do it again and again and again and again, who've been indoctrinated generation after generation after generation, do you think saying here's a country like Gaza that would change their thought? These two nurses live in an advanced Western culture, an advanced Western country, Australia. And yet this is their mindset. The Jew haters, the anti-Semites in the streets that we saw at our universities and colleges, or whether they're in London or in Paris or wherever the hell they are, they're in countries where they're free to live in whatever neighborhood they want, buy whatever home they want, and so forth and so on. The idea that geography has something to do with ideology is absurd, particularly when that ideology is radical, is extremist, is part of a zealous mindset that is taught through a religion. Here, we're going to give you this neighborhood. Oh, okay, now I'll change my mind. It doesn't work that way. The proof is these two nurses. These two nurses. That's the proof.
For all this and much more, sign up for Levin TV.